The moment I saw them, my breath caught in my throat. There they were, standing at the far end of the auditorium, their heads scanning the crowd, their presence a jarring contrast to the joyous atmosphere. A woman, younger than me by at least 10 years, clutching the hand of a teenage girl who looked so much like my son, Daniel, that my stomach lurched. Beside them, a boy, no older than 10, shuffled awkwardly in his dress shoes, his gaze darting nervously around the room. I gripped the edge of my chair, my nails digging into the fabric. They weren't supposed to be here. They weren't part of this world. My ex-husband, Mark, had walked out of our lives nearly 12 years ago. No explanations. No closure. One day, he was a devoted father. The next, he was gone, leaving behind an empty bank account and a son who cried himself to sleep every night. I had done everything I could to rebuild our lives, to give Daniel the love and stability Mark had stolen from him. I had been mother, father, provider, and protector. And today, after years of struggle, sacrifice, and relentless determination, my son was graduating as valedictorian. This was our moment. Not his. And certainly not theirs. A hand gently touched mine. "Mom? You okay?" Daniel's voice was low, his dark eyes, so much like his father's, searching mine with concern. He had no idea why I had gone rigid, why my fingers trembled against the fabric of my dress. I forced a smile. "Of course, sweetheart. Just proud of you." The principal took the stage, welcoming the audience, but I barely heard a word. My pulse pounded in my ears as my gaze flicked back to them. The woman, was she his wife? His longtime girlfriend? Did she know what kind of man he really was? And why, after all these years, had they come? The ceremony proceeded in a blur. Students crossed the stage, names were called, parents clapped. My hands followed the motions, but my mind was spinning. Then, finally, Daniel's name rang through the auditorium. Daniel Carter, valedictorian, summa cum laude. The crowd erupted in cheers. I stood, clapping so hard my palms stung, my heart swelling with pride as Daniel strode across the stage, shaking the principal's hand, his grin radiant. My son. My brilliant, strong, beautiful son. And then I saw them again. The girl, the one who looked so much like Daniel, was crying. The woman had her hand on her chest, eyes glassy with emotion. And Mark? He was standing at the back now, partially obscured by a pillar, watching his son with an unreadable expression. The anger hit me like a tidal wave. He had no right to be here. To stand in the shadows as if he were some tragic figure, as if he hadn't abandoned his son and built a life elsewhere. As if he deserved to see this moment. The ceremony ended, and the graduates spilled into the courtyard, laughter and chatter filling the air. I held Daniel close as we wove through the crowd, determined to keep him from seeing them. But fate had other plans. Daniel. His name, spoken in a voice I hadn't heard in over a decade, made my blood run cold. Daniel turned, blinking in confusion. And there he was. Mark. Standing just feet away, his face older, lined with regret, but his eyes, those same stormy gray eyes, fixed on our son with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. "Dad?" Daniel's voice cracked. And just like that, the life I had rebuilt began to splinter at the edges. For a moment, no one spoke. The air between us felt charged, as if one wrong move would shatter the fragile silence. Mark stood there, his hands clenched at his sides, his jaw tight. His eyes flickered with something, guilt, maybe, but I didn't care. This wasn't his moment to claim. Daniel took a step forward, his expression a mix of shock and something far more dangerous, hope. It crushed me. I had spent years picking up the broken pieces of my son's heart, trying to erase the hurt Mark had left behind. And now, with a single word, all those wounds threatened to reopen. "Dad?" Daniel's voice wavered. Mark swallowed, nodding. "Hey, kid. Kid. As if he'd been here all along. As if he had earned the right to speak to Daniel with casual affection. Daniel turned to me, his face searching mine for answers, but I had none to give. My hands trembled, fists forming at my sides. I wanted to grab my son, pull him away, shield him from whatever lies were about to spill from Mark's mouth. Before I could speak, the woman stepped forward. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "This wasn't how we wanted this to happen." I turned my glare on her, my chest tightening. "Who the hell are you?" She hesitated, casting a nervous glance at Mark. "My name is Rachel. I'm Mark's wife." Wife. The word punched through me, though it shouldn't have. What had I expected? That Mark had spent the last 12 years wandering, lost and alone? Of course not. He had built a new life. A new family. I looked at the girl beside her, then at the boy, his features an eerie echo of Mark's. My stomach twisted. "You have a whole new family," I said, my voice shaking. "And yet, here you are. Why? What do you want?" Rachel opened her mouth, but Mark stepped forward, his gaze locked on Daniel. "I wanted to see my son." "You don't get to call him that," I snapped, my anger flaring white-hot. "Not after 12 years. You don't get to show up now, at his graduation of all days, and pretend like you care." Daniel flinched at my words, and guilt hit me instantly. This wasn't about me. This was about him. But before I could say anything, he turned to Mark, his expression hardening. "Why now?" Daniel's voice was quiet, but the hurt in it was deafening. "Where have you been?" Mark exhaled sharply, rubbing the back of his neck. "I know I messed up. I made mistakes." Daniel let out a hollow laugh. "Mistakes? You disappeared, Dad. You left and never looked back. You never called. Never wrote. You let Mom work 2 jobs just to keep a roof over our heads. You let me believe I wasn't good enough for you." Mark's face crumpled. "That's not true, Daniel." "Then why?" Daniel's voice broke. "Why did you leave?" The silence stretched, thick with pain. Rachel reached for Mark's hand, squeezing it. He looked at her, something unspoken passing between them, before he turned back to Daniel. "I got scared," he admitted. "I was drowning in debt, in expectations, in everything. And instead of facing it, I ran. I thought if I started over, I could be a better man. I convinced myself you'd be better off without me." Daniel's lips parted in disbelief. "That's bullshit." A flicker of pride shot through me at my son's strength, but my heart ached for him. He had deserved so much more than this moment. The younger boy tugged on Rachel's sleeve. "Mom, can we go now?" he whispered. Rachel hesitated before looking at me. "We didn't come here to cause trouble. Mark he wanted to see his son. To try and make things right." I shook my head. "You don't just make things right after 12 years. You don't get to waltz in and act like you care because it's convenient now." Mark's shoulders sagged. "I know. But I had to try." Daniel let out a shaky breath, his gaze locked onto Mark's. "You missed everything." His voice was quieter now, raw with pain. "My birthdays. My soccer games. My first broken bone. You weren't there when Mom couldn't afford Christmas presents, or when I stayed up crying, wondering what I did wrong." Mark's eyes shone with unshed tears. Daniel shook his head. "I don't know if I can ever forgive you." Mark flinched, as if the words had physically struck him. But Daniel wasn't done. He turned to me, his expression conflicted. I need some time," he muttered, before walking off into the crowd. I wanted to follow him, to wrap my arms around him and shield him from this pain. But I knew I couldn't. I turned back to Mark, my voice cold. "You did this to him. Don't expect a happy ending. Mark's face was filled with regret, but regret wasn't enough. It never would be. I found Daniel sitting on the hood of my car in the parking lot, his graduation cap discarded beside him. His shoulders were slumped, hands clasped together, his usually bright eyes clouded with something heavy. For a moment, I just watched him, my heart breaking in ways I couldn't explain. No matter how much I had tried to protect him, I couldn't shield him from this. I sighed and walked over, leaning against the car beside him. "You okay?" He let out a dry laugh. "Not really." I stayed quiet, giving him space to fill the silence on his own terms. After a long pause, he whispered, "I used to dream about this moment." He glanced at me, his expression filled with something I couldn't quite place. Not exactly like this, but I used to imagine him showing up, apologizing, telling me he had a good reason for leaving. Something that made sense. Something I could forgive. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "And now?" Daniel looked away, staring at the sky. "Now I don't know what to feel." I exhaled slowly, trying to gather the right words. It's okay to feel everything at once, or nothing at all. It's okay to be angry. Or hurt. Or to want to forgive him, even if you're not ready yet. His jaw tightened. "I don't think I can forgive him." "You don't have to," I said gently. "Not today. Not ever, if that's what feels right. Forgiveness isn't something you owe him." He nodded, but his expression remained distant. "Do you hate him?" The question caught me off guard. I had spent years hating Mark, resenting every missed moment, every struggle he left behind. But sitting here, looking at my son, so strong, so much more than the pain his father had caused, I realized something. "I used to," I admitted. "For a long time, I did. But hate is heavy, Daniel. And at some point, I had to put it down. Not for him, for me." He absorbed my words, his brow furrowed in thought. "Do you think he really wants to make things right?" I hesitated, choosing my words carefully. "I think he wants to believe that. But wanting isn't enough. He can't undo the past. And whatever he does next, that's on him. Not you." Daniel nodded slowly, his fingers tracing patterns on the hood of the car. Then, after a long silence, he sighed. "I don't want him in my life." My heart clenched, but I nodded. "Then that's your choice." He looked at me then, his eyes clearer than they had been all day. "But I do want to talk to her." "Rachel." That surprised me. "Why?" Daniel ran a hand through his hair. "She didn't have to come today." "But she did." "Anne." "I don't know, Mom. I just have a feeling there's more to the story." I studied him for a moment, pride swelling in my chest. He was stronger than I had ever been at his age, willing to seek understanding where I had only wanted to shut the door. "If that's what you want," I said, "I'll support you." He gave me a small, grateful smile. "Thanks, Mom." A weight seemed to lift off his shoulders as he sat up straighter. He wasn't completely okay, not yet, but he was getting there. And as I reached over, squeezing his hand in mine, I realized something else. This wasn't the ending I had planned for us. But maybe, just maybe, it was the beginning of something better. If you liked it, subscribe to the channel and enjoy these other amazing stories.